So, it is time for the ultimate tier list. The Kayn matchup tier list in the jungle. We're going to be going over every champion, talking about high elo, low elo, explaining every single champion in-depthly and how they do into Kayn. Oh, wait, first things first, actually, let me, I have a very good idea here. Add a row above. We're going to call this Giga Chad. Sorry, put Kayn. Alright, so every champion the Kayn. I'm gonna start off with Amumu here. And Amumu is definitely one of those champions that I have to say I feel like is extremely easy. Red Kayn just absolutely dominates. I'd say blue could dominate as well. Because, I mean, his Qs you should never get hit by if you're playing blue Kayn, nor his ult. Always look to just dive his backline and kill him. And then for Red Kayn, I mean, you just completely drain take him. He's a tank designed to destroy tanks. Even if he goes AP, you could just rush some MR, maybe get some Merc Treads, a Maw, something like that. He won't be able to kill you. You could just kill him for free. So I would say Mumu probably one of the easiest matchups here. So we're going to put him in easy for red form. I'll say both forms. Both forms. Now, Bel'Veth. This is definitely a matchup that took me a while to learn. So I'm not going to say it's dodge or ban. Definitely a 50-50, and I'll kind of explain why. So she has damage reduction, which is a hard counter for blue Kayn. But, now you're probably thinking red Kayn. Well, red Kayn, if you build really tanky, you can survive her. But she's also able to kill your team because she clears the same speed as you. She's stronger in fights, better at objective control. I mean, honestly, better all around, but the amount of times I've beaten Bel'Veth, surprisingly, it's around 70 to 30%. So I think if you understand the matchup and you play towards your strengths, which is team fighting as red Kayn, or if you're blue Kayn, just avoid her at all costs, or maybe try and use vision to one-shot her. So whenever, you know, she's moving around, kind of like a Master Yi, try and one-shot them before they can get the damage reduction off, so use vision in your favor. So it is playable, but definitely a hard one. Diana, once again, I gotta say, pretty easy. I would say easy for both forms because usually, honestly, I don't mind going blue Kayn into Diana because she has her W, so usually it's a good angle to go Serpents. So Serpents hard counters the Diana pretty easy, pretty swiftly. Red Kayn obviously destroys her, just out damage, out sustain, out everything. And the main important thing about Diana is that your ult counters her ult. So whenever she ults you, there's like a 1 second time period between when the damage actually goes off. So once you get that knock up, you can just go inside of her, dodge her ult entirely. So you pretty much always win that matchup. Ekko. Ooh, that's a toughie. Because it's like, I really want to put him easy, but also hard. That's a toughie. I have to decide ultimately. I mean, the thing is that the reason why I say it could be easy or hard, if blue Kayn's ahead of him, then you could definitely look to kill him, like one shot, and just save your ult for him after. But see, most of the time, you don't have enough damage to straight up one shot him, and then he'll just ult and be able to kill you. So blue, it's kind of tough. Red Kayn, though, usually can kill him, but see, the thing is, because of his high mobility, it's kind of tough. I wouldn't say he's necessarily easy for blue form. You can beat him pretty well, because the main thing that you have the strength over him is that you can farm a lot faster than him. So usually I like to build a XP advantage, level advantage, and then be able to get my items a little bit quicker as well through the excess gold I get from CSing better. So I use that to build the leverage in order to one-shot him. So blue is definitely a matchup that you can learn to win. I definitely have beaten a lot more Echoes than I've lost to, but I would say red is the one that beats them pretty consistently. Very high mobility with the new Prowler's Ignite build, being able to stay on top of him. Even if you go Ghost, Smite, as long as you can stay on top of him, I'd say you beat him pretty easily. But takes a while to learn. He's not as easy as the other champs that are going to be on the list, so he's probably going to be up in the front. I'll probably do hardest to easiest, front to back. So I'll probably put Diana as way harder than Amumu. All right, now Elise. That's tough. Elise, another champion where genuinely both forms could be really easy or they could be really hard. And I think the main thing, once you learn the matchup, it definitely is easy. So I probably will wind up putting her in easy, but it's definitely something that it's going to take a while to learn. So it's kind of the same method as you do into Ekko. She is a champion that only functions well if she gets a lot of good early game kills, a very strong, good early game. If she gets that, then she'll just hardcore dominate. But if she doesn't, then you just farm up. And Red Kayn, usually, if you itemize properly, you know, Merc Treads, a little bit of MR, maybe a Maw or something, she's never going to be able to one-shot you. You always win the team fights. Always secure the objectives. And then Blue Kayn, if you get an XP advantage, Edge of Night Rush, just be able to destroy her. But definitely, this is a matchup. This is one of those matchups where if you're a high elo player, you're going to have to learn the matchup. It's going to take a while. You're going to lose to a lot of Elises before you get comfortable in beating her. Evelynn. And now this is a champion that we used to hard destroy. Both forms we used to hard destroy Evelynn. See, the thing is with Evelynn... No, 2-8. Thanks to the Prime. Appreciate that so much. The thing is with Evelynn is that she used to have a weak early game, and then they overbuffed her Q, and now she has a pretty strong early game. So we can't beat her. She farms the same time as us, and she outscales us. See, the thing is, back in the day, is that when she had less damage, Red Kayn used to be able to outscale her, and Blue Kayn used to be able to outpace her because you had the stronger early game, so you could usually look to path into her and be a little bit more aggressive. Now, I'd say she beats you all around. I wouldn't say dodge or ban, but it's definitely a 50-50. I mean, I probably lose to more Evelyns right now than I win against, but honestly, this is just because the champion's overstated. I don't think the champion, design-wise, is meant to ever beat a Kayn, because she should be weaker than him early. She should have a little bit of time in the mid-game to be stronger, and then late game she should get outscaled. By design. That's how it's always worked, but recently... I'm going to put her in 50-50, but definitely the hardest 50-50s. Fiddle, I gotta say dodge or ban. And this is strictly for high elo. I'm speaking for high elo. Low elo Fiddle 6 players do not know what they're doing. If they did, they would all be high elo, because this champion has the fastest clear. He has the most easiest, most scripted, telegraphed ganks out there. But the thing is, if he gets one kill, game's over. That's how it works in high elo. Evelynn is kind of similar, but I would say there's a little bit more wiggle room because she doesn't have a massive AoE ult that can hard CC an entire team. So I would say Evelynn's definitely obnoxious. She has a lot of damage, pretty scary, but Fiddle is a dodge or ban in my opinion. Gragas in this current... See, here's another champion. Old form should be able to destroy him. He doesn't have the best clear speed. I mean, he does now because he got overbuffed. He's not exactly a champion that ever, by design, should be able to beat Kayn. And even though he is very OP, like probably one of the best junglers in the game right now, I still have to say I think Red should beat him pretty easily. If you know how to itemize properly, whether you want to go the Gore Drinker and defensive route of Merc Treads, Maw, survivability, team fights, or the Prowler Ignite and full send him, either build you go, you should be able to kill Gragas. Definitely a difficult one. Like, a lot of these matchups took a while of learning. And I can go in depth with, like, specifically how to do each matchup, but I'd have to play the game and show you guys. So maybe I'll do that for a future video series, explaining every matchup as it goes, because that would be a lot easier to watch. Now, we're coming into an extremely tough one, because this... Maybe I should have added more categories, but this matchup... This is the most Kayn-defining moment you'll ever find out there. This is the most Kayn-defining moment out there. Do I want to say dodge or ban? By design, this champion counters you in every possible way. The only strength you have is you farm a little bit faster than him. Because his W counters your entire kit. His E, he is by design a hard counter to 80 melee junglers. His E could stack him up to 160 plus his base armor and insta caps late game, while he is also out damaging you. He is able to outpace, out-tempo, better skirmishing. I wouldn't necessarily say better team fighting. He could if he plays it really well, but see, the main thing that you have over him is the mobility. I would say a perfectly played Graves, a god tier Graves versus a god tier Kayn. The Graves should always dominate, in my opinion. Now, I do want to say I've definitely beaten a lot more Graves than I've lost to. I have rarely ever played... I think the only Graves player that really worked me over was Owner. And when you get in that situation, it's definitely dodge or ban. But super rare. This is a Kayn main defining moment here. This champion will determine how good of a Kayn main you are. 1,000,000%. Ekram used to be good for both forms. I mean, he used to be pretty squishy, but now he's a little bit tanky because they buffed his W, more resistances. So, red. Prowler Ignite build hard counters his build. The only strength he has over you is his engage, but as soon as he engages, just play to one-shot him. Once his R and E are down, he's extremely free kill. Shouldn't be a problem. Now finally, we got an easy for blue form matchup. Yes, Ivern. Ivern should be a very easy matchup for blue form. Prowlers, Serpents, easy. Well, with the new itemization, Yumu's, Serpents, easy. Should be pretty easy. He's a very strong champion though. He's got a lot of high stats, so a little bit overstated. I mean, you're gonna notice that a lot of champions are just way stronger than Kayn right now. On every side, if you check, Kayn is the second lowest ranked Jung in the game right now, and maybe that'll change with time. But right now, he's pretty weak. Hopefully, the new changes that are coming mid-season will change. I feel like they will. I've tested the items a little bit. It feels really good. Okay. Serpents, hard counter him. You farm same time as him. Just don't let him invade you. That's the only thing. Do not let him invade you. If anything, you can invade him. If all my Kayn invade junglers, invade him. Jarvan. Never will this champion be easy for blue form. He destroys blue form. Every time I play blue form against Jarvan, I think to myself, why did I do that? Really good at peeling, really good at engaging, but red Kayn will absolutely dominate, destroy him in a team fight. You want to go the Prowler's Ignite build, you'll kill him and his team. You want to go the Gorginger build, you'll out-sustain him, you'll out-damage him, you'll pace him out, everything. You have better clear speed. He is only really good at ganking, spamming ganks, but even in those early 3v3s, you could find yourself at an advantage if you dodge his EQ. So, definitely a very overstated. He's a very strong champ right now, but I wouldn't be worried about him. Not at all. Karthus. Ooh. That's tough, because he's a champion I want to say is easy for both forms, and for a long time he was actually a 50-50 matchup. But after a lot of playing into Fiddlesticks and Karthus, trying to figure out how to beat them. See, I've definitely gone around beating Fiddlesticks. See, I wouldn't say Fiddle is a... It doesn't need to be a dodger ban, but it's like a 80-20 matchup. You have a 20% chance of winning, which is what I would categorize as a dodger ban. But for me, I could definitely win that matchup more than the average Kayn main, I feel like. And Karthus, playing against Fiddle a lot, taught me how to beat Karthus. Basically, Merc Treads, Edge Knights. Honestly, I usually like getting first strike against Karthus. Single target burst. The thing that you'll run into the most in high elo is Karthus's that will take exhaust. So if he doesn't take exhaust, you can usually look to invade him early. Path for that. There's a lot of different paths for invading, but throwing off his full clear momentum would be a nice way to build some leverage. And if you do that, good sailing. But if you don't want to do that and he has exhaust, yeah, just go Edge Knight, Prowlers or Yumus or whatever you want to go, and poke him out. He has exhaust. If he has exhaust, poke him out. If he doesn't, just go crazy on him. The main strength into this matchup is that if you go inside of him or someone else, usually someone else, then you can just dodge out his ult entirely. You have a lot of mobility, so dodging his Qs isn't that hard. But champion was overstated in the past. I would say red Kayn should struggle into him. With the new red Kayn build, you could beat him. I would say just easy for blue form though. Saying he's easy for both forms would have to be a pretty bad Karthus. He'd have to position really poorly for red Kayn to destroy him. Kind of like Taliyah, but Kha'Zix. Oh. With how he is right now, this is same as Evelynn. I would love to, absolutely love to put him in easy for red form. But I just think he's way too strong right now with that Q buff. There's way too much strength. He always will play to invade you. Similar to Kindred over here that I'm going to talk about. Always will play to invade you and jump on top of you and get on top of you. Before, you used to be able to beat it. You know, if you take Ignite Prowlers, you just kill him back. But after those big buffs, he's pretty scary. Now, you can win the matchup if you go to team fighting. But I would say this is probably the definition of a 50-50 matchup. I've always played Kha'Zix when I see Kayns, because Kha'Zix is my second most played champ. So whenever I'd see a Kayn, I'd play Kha'Zix and be pretty aggressive on him. And whenever I'd see a Kha'Zix as Kayn, I'd feel pretty confident. So definition of a 50-50 matchup, all down to the decision making and the skills and the mindset of the player. But after those buffs, he's kind of in the same category as Evelynn, where it might be a little bit more than 50-50. It might be like a 60-40, 70-30, something like that. Not like an 80-20. 80-20 or higher is up here in your favors against Kayn. So these two, definitely there, but these two could be tough. I would say definitely harder than Bel'Veth. So, good. dodge or ban. I'm going to put Kindred actually in front of Graves. The thing about Kindred is, Kindred, we used to be able to beat her with Blue Kayn, but Blue Kayn just doesn't have the mobility nor the damage to really handle her if she knows how to itemize. And they have noticed how to itemize because of Plated Steel Caps, Frozen Heart, Wit's End, on top of the Kraken Slayer. So they just have too much excess damage in the game with Kindred to where she can build tanky, and it makes the game incredibly unplayable. Because with Red Kayn, it's very hard to get on top of her and stay on top of her. If you can hit your knockup, usually you can win the fight, but it's very hard. No Kindred should ever get hit by your W. And Blue Kayn, you have to be able to one-shot her before she gets her ult off, without using your ult. So, very specific requirements. I've definitely beaten more Kindreds than I've lost to in my time, but you're going to find yourself struggling a lot against a good Kindred. A lot. Now, this is a matchup that's pretty interesting. Now, Lee Sin actually, there's been times where Lee Sin has been really easy for Kayn, where it's been really hard for Kayn. And thankfully, right now, not that bad. Go Prowler's Ignite. Always look to fight him. Goes for an invade. Usually, yeah, you could beat him early on with Ignite. If you can dodge his Q, you're pretty much always going to win the 1v1. Skirmishes, just make sure that he doesn't get a multi-man ult, and you should be fine. And team fighting, you're going to be a lot stronger, and you outscale him. So, Lee Sin, not too bad. Lilia. Oh. It used to be really easy for blue form, but then they turned her into a melee champion. That being said, I don't know what it's okay. The thing is, Lilia is kind of like a Singe. They need to run in towards you in order to be able to do any damage or have any impact. And with them running in towards you, it makes it really easy for hitting your W as Red Kayn. And if you are itemizing the Prowler's Ignite or a high damage Red Kayn build, you should always be able to destroy Lilia. Even if you don't, if you stack some MR, just have to make sure that, you know, she's not kiting you out, she's not spacing you out. You have to make her come to you. A lot of Lilias will try to make you come to them. Always make her come to you. And another reason why I'm going to put Lilia easy for red is that your ult dodges out her ult entirely. If you're about to be slept, go inside anyone, you won't be slept. So I got to put Lilia. I'll say she's a little bit tough. I would say she's like, for being fair, I'd say this is the order of hardest to weakest. I wouldn't put Ekko that high. I'm gonna put Ekko in the middle of the pack. Yeah. Right there. Alright. Maokai. Pretty easy. I don't think Blue Kayn does too well into him, because usually he'll go like Aftershock. If he goes full damage Maokai, even then he has a little bit of sustain in his passive. He has his ult, so it means you're gonna need to get denied. It's not an unplayable matchup for Blue Kayn, but it's more of a 50-50 for blue. Extremely free for red. Take Ignite, take Prowlers, full send them, or go Gore Drinker and whatnot. Be able to out-sustain them and whatnot. Nothing too much to be worried about. When he was overstated, definitely a 50-50 or a dodge or ban. Bad. Not too bad. Alright, Master Yi. Now this is the one that... It's another one of those Kayn main defining moments. Can you beat the Master Yis? Now, no matter where this guy is, he's going to be at the top of the list. And some of you may or may not disagree with me, and I just want to explain why. So, every Master Yi I see right now builds extremely squishy. So you should be able to one-shot them, right? But you cannot as a Blue Kayn if he ever uses his W properly. The only way Blue Kayn will ever have any chance of fighting a Master Yi is if you use Vision towards your advantage. So, you know, controlling bushes, control wards, sneaking up on him, trying to one-shot him. That's the only way Blue Kayn will ever be able to dominate or fight Master Yi, okay? So, I'm not going to put him easy for both forms. But, he does build very squishy, and he's easily countered by CC. He's not the best in team fights, because you just have to go on top of him. And with Ignite, as Red Kayn, percent health damage, the cleaver, the penetration with Grudge, I think you have enough damage to be able to handle him as Red Kayn. But definitely a defining moment for Kayn main, so I would say he's the hardest of the easiest matchups. Probably put him like... See, this is like medium difficulty. I wouldn't put him at medium difficulty. Once you learn the matchup, I think I'm like 10-1 against Master Yis. Unless it's Cenarius himself, the EU rank 1 Master Yi god, who just is built different. Should be able to destroy Master Yi pretty easy as Red Kayn. Mord, I mean, I feel like it's pretty self-explanatory. I'd say he's a little harder than Maokai, but basically ignite, high damage, or MR if you need it. I don't think you need Merc Treads. At most, maybe a Mar or Snake or whatever you feel like getting. Main thing that you want to know is that whenever he's going to send you to the Shadow Realm, you can use your Q to dodge his Q. You can use your high mobility to dodge his E, maybe with your E. Or if you have nothing up and he just ults you, just go inside of him and wait it out. Make sure that you exit outside of him before it is before ult is done. Otherwise, he's not going to get the heal. Because I believe his ult duration is a second or two longer than your ult. So you want to ult him early and then exit before the ult ends and get the heal. Not easy for blue Kayn. Like, a lot of these champs are not easy for blue Kayn, and people are going to finally start to realize why we don't play blue Kayn as much in this meta. Alright. Nidalee. You gotta, honestly, it's bordering dodge or ban. It's not quite 80-20. I would say 50-50. But I would say this is probably one of the most difficult 50-50s you're ever going to face if it is a good Nidalee. The reason why I want to say 50-50 is because one of the main ways to counter Nidalee is forcing with team fights and objectives. She's not able to secure all the early objectives, and you're able to trade. She CS's the same time as you. She has way stronger ganks, way stronger 1v1, way stronger skirmishes. But I will say there is some skill there. If you could dodge her Qs, if you can get on top of her, if you could force a fight. Prowler's Ignite Red Kayn, I think, dominates. And Blue Kayn definitely has the potential to dominate as well. If she does not properly itemize, both forms can do well. Now, when I used to do Purple Kayn, which is the mixture of red and blue, when you go Blue Kayn with red build, red runes, kind of a bruiser Blue Kayn, that was one of the main counters to Nidalee. That was one of the main counters to Fiddle, but just because the stats are a little bit too low on Gore Drinker and Bruiser items, we don't really do that as much anymore. But there is definitely ways that you can beat Nidalee. I wouldn't say this is dodge or ban, but it's incredibly hard. If a good Nidalee is incredibly hard. Now in low elo, I don't think you're going to struggle too much against a Nidalee. In low elo, I could see you struggling against these type of champions if they know what they're doing. But if not, I mean, hey, you know what? I think every matchup has some potential to win. Some potential to win. Definitely, definitely. Nocturne. I'm going to say he's pretty easy. Pretty easy. How easy? I put him next to Hacker. I'm pretty easy. His main strength is picks. I wouldn't say he's easy for Blue Kayn if he knows how to itemize. I mean, he could be. I'd say that's more of a 50-50. Would I say Nocturne's easy for Blue Kayn? Maybe it's a little bit more than... I would say Nocturne can be easy. Because I think of the way that he itemizes pretty squishy. I never think he builds too tanky. Edge of Night counters his ult as well. So he doesn't actually get to see where you're at, and you get to see in the paranoia. So that's pretty good. The main thing is whenever he goes in, if he ults you, just go inside of him before it connects. Similar to Vi, but a lot easier because he doesn't really have the damage to follow up after his ult is done. His main way that he plays is through picks, and usually Blue Kayn is always playing to shadow the side lane. And Red Kayn is usually playing in a group. So if you're playing Red Kayn, tell your team to group on you. If you're playing Blue Kayn, shadow the side laner, take the 2v2. You're probably going to win. Nunu. I think with the itemization, he's around here. If you are going Red Kayn with Ignite Prowlers, I think you should always be able to full send the Nunu, kill him. And if you want to be tankier and you want to be, you know, the front line for your team, you could always go Gore Drinker, Berk Treads, one MR item, maybe a Maw, maybe a, what do we call it, Force of Nature. Oh, I think Nunu definitely does have some difficulty to him, but I wouldn't really be too worried about him. The main issue with Nunu is he gets too many ganks off early, but usually when he gets too many ganks off early, you just make sure you're counting which camps he's doing. So let's say he gets all 3 camps in his bot side, make sure you go to invade his top side, or you go for the counter gank. Annoying, but I wouldn't necessarily say hard. Olaf, free matchup. I wouldn't play blue at Olaf ever. Very tanky, but pretty easy for, I'd say he's a little bit harder than Ward with Kayn and his choice. Now we're getting to Poppy. Now, for our low elo, high elo, all elos, this champ is definitely dodge or ban. For W, counters your Q, it counters I think your E when you go into a wall, not when you press it, but when you go into a wall, I believe it counts as your E. She gets high mobility when she charges in, so hitting your W is pretty difficult. Usually I save my smite to connect the W on her. The best way to play into Poppy is just to go with the Gore Drinker tanky build, because she has so much CC. Gore Drinker tanky build, just try and survive her out, and you should be fine. But Poppy is extremely obnoxious. One of those matchups is it's going to take you a while to learn. It took me a while to learn. It's going to take you a while to learn, and she is very tedious to play against. I am not a fan of playing into Poppy. But I definitely would say I beat Poppy more than I beat Graves or Kindred or Fiddle. Fiddle, I have the toughest time against. But the next one, Kiana, pretty no-brainer. I think both forms can beat her. Definitely a skill matchup though for blue. Whoever gets the fastest draw. You can actually have a little bit of time between your R, her R of her knocking you up, and the wall actually damaging you. So the knock-up, if you're quick enough, you can actually get your ult inside of her to dodge the second portion of her damage. And that's pretty good for Blue Kayn. That's why I'd say Blue Kayn can beat. And Red Kayn, pretty no-brainer. Prowler's Ignite. She's just never going to have the damage to kill you. It's pretty easy to stay on top of her as well. Or even if you go the Gore Drinker build, just smite her, stay on top of her. Hope she doesn't kill your team, but Count is pretty easy for both forms. Rammus, you cannot play Blue Kayn for Rammus. You cannot. Red Kayn, on the other hand, I'd say destroys. I'll give Rammy a little bit more strength over the Malphite. I don't think Malphite's that bad. But Red Kayn definitely demolishes. If you want to cancel his Q, you have your W for CC. Usually I hold it because he's going to ult in, and that'll go through your W. Your Qs will just whittle him down. Your ult will do a big heal. Just make sure, because most Rammuses rush Thornmail, make sure that the Thornmail debuff of the anti-heal is gone before you finish your ult. So usually you hold your ult. You want to stay inside Rammus as long as you can. Totally don't think know about that. Rek'Sai. I think Rek'Sai is pretty weak right now. I don't think she's that good. That being said, I genuinely felt like she used to be a 50-50 matchup, depending on how good the Rek'Sai was. He has a very good early game. But now I feel like it's a bit of a no-brainer. Not super easy, so I'd put him like, right around here or something. I'd say she's like, oh, yeah, she used to be pretty difficult to face off against because she was like the early gank spammer, get herself an advantage. Kind of like a Bel'Veth, but I think Bel'Veth's just a way better version of Rek'Sai. Damage falls off super hard. As soon as you get to like mid-game team fights, once you get your form, you pretty much dominate. I always say, if you're playing Red Kayn, once you get Cleaver, game's over. For Blue Kayn, it can be a little bit difficult because usually she gets like Prowlers at your night, so not the easiest to one-shot her. You don't really want to like get on top of her. You want her to like kind of get kited out, spaced out. So Blue, a little bit harder, but Rengar. I think Rengar used to be a dodger ban just because he gets one kill, which completely dominates over you. But I think with the Ignite Red Kayn, I gotta put Rengar right next to his friend Kha'Zix. I'd say Kha'Zix is a little bit tougher right now because I think Kha'Zix has a little bit more stats. Just a little bit stronger. Rengar is definitely one of the toughest matchups. For the longest time, he was a dodger ban for me. Incredibly difficult. Gets one kill, takes over. Kind of like a Fiddlesticks. But with the Ignite setup, you can actually beat him 1v1. You can beat him 1v1 after your first reset if you get a Dirk. And no matter what he has. If he doesn't properly rotate his combo or your team's there, you have a level advantage. You should usually be able to 1v1 him. So definitely some strength there. I'd say he full clears around the same time. His team fighting is... it's okay. It's not bad. Your ult can dodge his ult if you can do it before the jump lands on you. So pretty good for 1v1s later on. Team fighting, get it controlled, planted on your carries. Make sure that Rengar can't jump on him. I would say you can, but it's very difficult. You can knock him up before he jumps onto your carries. So if you're good, if you have good reaction times, go for it. Probably dominate him. Sejuani. Ow. Sejuani's pretty easy. Pretty easy for Red Kayn. Horrible for Blue Kayn, especially with the passive. It's kind of like bone plating. I'd say pretty easy for Red Kayn. So kind of a no-brainer. Use your ult to dodge her ult. CC is kind of annoying. The early game's a little bit tough. She has a lot of damage early game, believe it or not. You can go Gore Drinker, you can go Prowlers, you can go whatever. You beat her, I'd say post 6 is when you really start to beat her. Wouldn't look to 1v1 her too much because she survives for a long time and usually the teams will come. Once you get your form, easy dominate, easy take over. I would say, well, a little harder than Rek'Sai. Shaco. This is another one of those controversial takes. I think Shaco's actually easy for both forms. And hear me out, I think if Shaco goes AD Shaco, Blue Kayn hardcore dominates. Hardcore. I think if he goes AP Shaco, Red Kayn hard dominates, hard takes over. Shaco's a pretty good champion right now, has pretty good stats. So it's a little bit difficult. So people that haven't really gotten used to the matchup, yeah, might be a little bit tough. You definitely start farming a lot faster than him after his initial clear, because his initial clear, he abuses those box, farms really fast. Can be difficult, but I think Shaco's not the hardest. I would say you could beat him with both forms. The main thing that makes Shaco really easy, this is a fun little interaction. So whenever you jump on Shaco and you damage him, usually you have Sweeper, you always hold on to Sweeper against him. You damage him, you stay on top of him. Your Q in one cycle breaks his box, so try and Q him and the box at the same time. He has Ignite, you take Ignite. Red. Not that hard. But the thing I was going to say is if you damage him before he ults, only one target between him and his clone will you be able to ult, will you be able to go inside of. So you could always tell which Shaco is the real Shaco. So I would say it's a pretty favorable matchup for you. How difficult would I say? A little bit harder than Nocturne. Actually, I'd say he's like second. Takes a little bit of time to get used to. Shyvana, no brainer. AD or AP Shyvana, doesn't matter. Red Kayn will dominate. Blue Kayn, not so much, because the dragons give her resistances, give her stats, makes it harder to kill. If she goes AP, it's on. Yeah, if she goes AD, it's a little bruiser item. So I would say Red Kayn pretty well. I would put her ahead of these champs. 2 Skarners. One wasn't bad enough. Well, Skarner, I think Skarner's pretty easy. Red Kayn, same thing, no brainer. I'd usually go the Gore Drinker build. I want to go Prowler's Ignite just because he can CC you for 4 seconds straight. So you just have to survive him. Just out-sustain him, survive him. Sometimes you can go Merc Treads into him. It's pretty good. Make sure you take his Spires away. And I would say Skarner's a little bit harder than Rek'Sai. Pretty easy. Taliyah. One of the very few Blue Kayn actually does well into. You're going to need Edge of Night because of her Eve. You're going to need Edge of Night because of her Eve.
Tie for the good content for usual Karas guy.
Appreciate that, my boy. You're going to 100% need Edge of Night or the Taliyah. You're kind of going to itemize the same that you would into a Karthus, where you might even want Merc Treads. I would say she's a little bit harder than Karthus because she has a lot of damage, and I would say for mobility, the reason why you can't go Red Kayn is because of her Eve. It's incredibly hard to get on top of her. She can infinitely cut you up. But with Blue Kayn, you have the mobility to get on top of her. Usually you can one-shot her. Probably going to get Zanya's, so that's really the only skill issue is holding your ult for after the Zanya's done and just being able to kill her with that. But it's usually not that hard. You're pretty equal in mobility and jump on her. Prowler's goes crazy in her. When Prowler's gone, you moose on mobility. Kalunski. Oh, now we're getting into the real hard takes. Talon. That's tough. I don't know if he's easy or if he's 50-50. He's definitely I would say he's at the top of easy. He's not an easy champion to get used to playing against. Very difficult in the fact that, I mean, he plays very similarly to Blue Kayn, but I feel like if you're fast with Blue, like usually your E is better than his E, your mobility is a little bit higher, your damage is a little bit higher, but he can be very difficult if the talent's good. And then Red Kayn, I feel like you should always beat him in team fights, whether he has Ignite or not. I would usually recommend, if he goes Ignite, that you should go Gore Drinker and be tankier, but you could always go Prowler's Ignite and just look to send him, but it is a little bit dicey. I would say it's definitely a matchup that requires some time playing into. Not easy at all. Alright, Trundle. It's like, it is easy, but it's not. I'd say like it's a 70-30 in your favor, but could be a 50-50 if you're new to it. Could even be the opposite. Could be dodge or ban if you're new to Talon. If it's good Talon, it could be very difficult. Trundle, very easy, very simple, very basic. Whenever you ult you, just ult him, stay inside there, get anti over real early. If you take ignite, they win. Blue Kayn, I would not recommend playing into Trundle. Red Kayn is your guy. And I'd say he's around, he's a little bit better off. A bit. Udyr. Well, there's two of them. Let's see, which Udyr am I using? Oh. I think Udyr, his clear speed's the same time as yours. Actually, it's a little bit faster than yours. His skirmishing and fighting is a lot better than yours, but your team fighting is better. In an objective control meta, where you can get those early objectives and get his team ahead early, I would say it is 100% a 50-50 matchup. 100%. Blue form does not do anything into this guy. You will get destroyed. Now, how hard of a 50-50 would I say he is? I'll put him in between. I'll put him in front of Kha'Zix, honestly. That's how tough Udyr could be. Udyr can be extremely hard, depending on how smart he is. Because the champion, you just cannot fight him early. My best bet in Udyr, usually, try and find out what side he's starting and invade him. If you can kind of set him behind, similar to how you would at Karthus, look for the invade. But, yeah, Udyr definitely an obnoxious champion. The early objective controls, when you get to that team fight stage later on, once you get your form, you're able to group up. You know, once he runs in, just knock him up and beat him up. Your entire team should be able to kill him, but not an easy matchup. Okay, Vi. A lot of people seem to think Vi is difficult. Well, let me tell you something. If you get any form of damage, smite, ignite, autos, W's, Q, anything, and she ults you, and you go inside her while her ult is going through to you, you cancel her entire ult. So with that being said, I gotta say she's easy for red, but not the easiest. I would put her... How strong she is? I'd put her right behind Elise. Not that hard for Red Kayn, but definitely is a champion that has a lot of stats. Her percent ult damage is kind of rough. She plays very similarly to Red Kayn, but she has engage, so I have to watch out for that. But not too hard. Viego. I think if you build any form of Red Kayn build, you should always be able to dominate Viego in the jungle. It is a little bit difficult. I would put him on the same tier as around like Vi. Not the easiest, but not the hardest, honestly. He takes some time. I think at the start he's a 50-50 matchup, but once you understand how he works, he doesn't farm as fast as you. He's kind of like a Kha'Zix, but a little bit worse. His team fighting's a little bit better, but it's not as good. The main thing is you want to make sure he doesn't get the resets. So usually when you're in a team fight, you want to be on top of him. You want to be focusing him. You want to be killing him, or you want to be denying him from getting on your team. So Viego's not that hard if you know what to itemize. Board Drinker, if you have a good backline, Prowlers, and Ignite if you want to be aggressive and just kill him. Okay, so Volibear. Volibear's a pretty good skirmish champ, but Red Kayn will dominate. Once again, Blue Kayn not good. By the way, Viego, if you're wondering, not good for Blue Kayn because he can itemize Death Stance and that just counters you entirely. Volibear is definitely a strong skirmisher. I'd say he's a little bit harder than Hecarim. He's got a very strong skirmish. You can't really beat him early on. His objective control is meh. He's getting a buff, so maybe it'll be a little bit better, but it's not that tough. If you go Red Kayn, you should be able to always beat him. Once you get your form, take Ignite, you counter his healing. Team fights, runs a deuce. Similar to the Udyr, but much worse version because it doesn't have the giant AoE around him. Warwick, probably one of the easiest Red Kayn matchups in the game. I would put him all the way over here. Whenever he is about to ult you, if you can knock him up and cancel his ult entirely, you can use your ult to wait out his damage reduction, his W, or I think it's his E. So you can just wait that out and just kill him. The main thing you need to get is anti-heal. So if you have Ignite, if you have Executioner's Bramble, anything, pretty free. Wukong. He's had some times where he's been a little bit overstated, a little tough, but regardless, I think Red Kayn could dominate him. Pretty easy. Pretty easy. Good skirmish jungler, so I put him a little bit above Wally, in between Jarvan. Wally's pretty good. Xin Zhao, another one of those really easy matchups. Same thing as like a Warwick, just gonna charge at you, hold your W for 40 charges, auto Q, Gore Drinker, ult, or good Prowler, one shot him. I would say he's a little bit worse than Rek'Sai. Zachary. You can cancel his E with your W. You can dodge out and wait out his ult with your ult. % ult damage, but you out sustain, out heal him. The only issue is that he has engage and your team doesn't have engage, so just make sure you're grouping up with your team. And it's not that hard. But I will say he is a lot more difficult than most champs, so I'm actually putting him at the top of that list. He could be easy if you play it right, but there's definitely a lot of room for him to outplay you, so don't get too comfortable. Now Zed's probably going to be one of the last. Usually the assassins, red or blue, destroys them. Red will out sustain, out damage, able to stay on top of them. Blue, if Zed ever ults you, ult him immediately. You'll be able to go in with that. So I'd say Zed, probably behind Qiyana. Yeah. So, anyways, boys, that would be the ultimate Kayn tier list for who is the hardest, who is the easiest. As you can see, red Kayn does good into a lot of matchups. This is why I usually tell people red Kayn is the secret to climbing. Blue Kayn doesn't have a lot of good matchups. Now, the thing you have to understand about all of these, and for Blue Kayn, is that Blue Kayn doesn't play to necessarily win the jungle matchup. Blue Kayn plays to kill the bot lane, to kill the mid lane, to kill the top lane, look for picks. He's not playing to win the jungle. But he does win some jungle matchups if played properly. But think about how many red wins, and a lot of these champions up here, red is kind of the secret into beating them, I'd say. Red would be the secret to beating Rengar, Bel'Veth, Udyr, and Nidalee. Evelynn, Kha'Zix, you can maybe be with Blue Kayn if you're good enough. Graves, you can be with Blue Kayn. Kindred, you can be with Blue Kayn. Fiddle, you can be with Blue Kayn. Notice that 3 out of 4 of the Dodger Van matchups, you have to play Blue Kayn, and you have to play out of your mind. Hop off. Skarner, we already have him. He's right there. They're just an extra one. Either way, boys, hope you enjoyed it. That is the Kayn tier list. Peace out.